I know you've spent thousands of dollars of your own money on water, on filters, on this, on that. There's plenty of people who, whatever extensions they were given through Medicare or Medicaid, have not had all their health coverage costs covered. So I mean, who's going to pay for all this? Whether it's the water bottles, the filters, the health care. It seems like essentially there was this human-made disaster, and almost as big as that disaster, the disaster of the response or non-response. And now we're seeing aggressive action like this, and because this isn't like, you know, we're so great, but because the media doesn't cover it, this is normalized. It's normalized to poison citizens and then kind of say, oh, well, you know, tough luck.
Yeah. We also just got a bridge card in the mail because I have 3 children, and we were given, it's kind of like, you know, food stamps. It's supplemental to the food stamps, actually. And the letter actually says this is for food to help mitigate the effects of lead. And to me, that's just insulting. It's just absolutely horrible to be given something. First of all, they haven't replaced the pipes. They haven't fixed anything at all. And so instead, you get, you know, a couple of funds to buy more fruits and vegetables, again, that we can't wash in our own homes, we can't eat, to mitigate the effects of lead. Lead is a permanent toxic or neurotoxin. The acceptable levels are 0. You don't mitigate that. And so this, again, you talked about this normalizing process. This is just one thing among many. And here comes this card with a very opaque description of what it is and what it covers and what's it for. It came with like 8 pages of doc. I still can't figure out what it is, how I can use it. You know, what you end up getting things like this in the mail, and then you've got to go to your friends, to your activist colleagues, and try to figure it out and hold meetings about what this means, you know, what the implications are for it, and what we have to do in order to, you know, ensure that things are done properly and equitably.
I think broader than just the water crisis, I wanted to ask you about, I don't mean to be cheesy, but the crisis of democracy. I mean, I think it's clear we don't live in one, but I mean, starting with the emergency manager, unelected, undemocratic, and essentially made the mayor, the city council mute because he had complete control. You see now in other states they're creating these cockamamie laws to basically criminalize protest. Tennessee, we just saw 6 people here arrested for no reason, which I've been following up on. Obviously, the whole thing in Standing Rock was complete abuse of the First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press. I think why, I want your thoughts, but why people should care about this is besides the fact that Reuters did this great story about at what we know of, 3,000 cities have worse levels than lead. But what happens when it comes to you, to your town, and if you aren't, you know, affluent or middle class, now it's tax liens. What comes next? You're going to be thrown in jail if you don't pay. I mean, it seems like if people don't stand up and stick up for the people of Flint, it's just a matter of time before it happens to you.
Right, and this is a public health crisis. I mean, it's water. You know, I've always said that you can't segregate water. You can segregate communities, you can segregate neighborhoods, you can segregate schools, and we definitely have those. And I think those are of concern because we live with people. We don't just live as isolated individuals. So you're sharing your world with other people, and if they're lead poisoned, if they're more hostile and aggressive because they have some kind of neurological disorder from the water, you have to live in the world with them. You know, and again, water can't be segregated. It's free flowing. It's, you know, it evaporates into the air. It goes someplace that you cannot isolate yourself from these problems. I mean, maybe you can try to, you know, placate yourself for a short period of time, but it eventually is going to come home to roost. And you know, if Flint is not used as an example of what's happening in the rest of the city or the rest of the nation, you know, it's like burying your head in the sand. This is happening everywhere. This is happening everywhere.
I got one more question, so if we have comments or questions, send them in. But it's a touchy subject. I know that a lot of residents here like her, but do you feel the mayor has come out strongly enough against these tax liens? In fairness, she did publicly come out that she doesn't think there should be tax liens and is going to try to work to make exceptions and blah, blah, blah. I'm waiting for a response from Congressman Dan Kildee about, I know he's come out against the tax liens, but I haven't heard much from him on these arrests or anything like that. But do you think, frankly, Mayor Weaver ran on all the things that were done improperly with this water crisis and how she was going to fix it? Do you think she's been strong enough?
I think that's, I'm not happy about Mayor Weaver, but I'm also unwilling to get caught up in this local political circus because I think it distracts from the real issue of what's being done on much higher levels. I'm not happy with what she's done or what she's doing. I always think that people can speak out more. I think everybody should use their voice as loudly as possible. So I'm always critical of everybody. And she has said that she doesn't agree with the tax liens, but I honestly feel that she could be doing more about that. She could be more assertive. She could be more aggressive. She could be speaking. We can't find her. Where is she? She's missing in action. So we can't really.
She could be going on national media to speak out against it.
She could be doing a lot of things. But again, I think that this is a diversion. We need to be going after Snyder. We need to be strengthening the EPA. We need to be going after all the players who actively and purposely contributed to this disaster. We need to follow up and make them accountable, and we need to change the pipes. I don't want to get caught up in talking about garbage contracts or about, the city council or this and that or a recall, because I think that that's, whether it's intentional or unintentional, it's playing right into Snyder's hands. I mean, he would be happy to have us just, toiling around, in circles instead of it takes.
He loves it when the focus is on Weaver or anybody else.
Absolutely, he's like and then he's like I'm here on my own, getting away scot-free.
And to button it up, you did pay your bill for the tax liens. I know you got a little help too.
I did not pay. We have a wonderful, Democracy Defense League, the Hispanic Collaborative. There are a lot of community groups that have been active from day one. The Woodside Church also has been active and actually houses some of these community organizations. And there were some people who got together and raised funds, immediate disaster relief funds to help people like myself to pay those immediate fees. So I actually had assistance from Woodside Church and other people who were sympathetic. I think they raised a lot of money. So I did have organizations come through, and a lot of people who choose to remain anonymous. So there were people to actually help with something very concrete very quickly. But I don't want it to be said that we've paid and that's it. We've paid with a corollary that this is not, we're not just paying, we're paying with reservations, but just so that we don't have our water shut off and our homes taken away. I can't fight if I don't have a place to live. I can't fight if my children are taken away. So this is in the game of chess, it's, I'm moving a pawn, but overall, it's a bigger picture, bigger fight.
Anything, Ty?
Someone asked, are people not trying to sue the city for what's going on, like the residents? No one's filed a case against the city.
Well, I mean, a case was filed against the state, and they just won. So they won $97 million, and according to the state, they're going to replace 18,000 pipes by 2020. There have been plenty of lawsuits, to my mind, that I'm aware of against Snyder, which is what he's charging all these fine residents for in taxes. Are you aware of any bigger lawsuits?
I'm not aware of any bigger lawsuits. It's really difficult to keep track of all the lawsuits. I don't want the city to be held accountable for Snyder's misdeeds and Snyder's crimes, because eventually it'll just come back down to me. I want Snyder to be held accountable.
And by the way, there is culpability on the EPA, because the EPA was advising the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality that you need to put in the anti-corrosives and yada yada. Obviously, that was a major issue why this happened. There wasn't the proper anti-corrosives put in to the pipes when the water switch happened. And basically the EPA said, oh, but we didn't want to put a gun to the Michigan Department of Environmental Qualities, but you're the EPA, that's the federal. If you see that there is a iceberg right ahead, and you do nothing, you can't just put your head in the sand and say, well, we told them. So this Snyder is the biggest, because Snyder's unelected emergency manager was the one who made this decision, which essentially means Rick Snyder made the decision. Anything else?
No, just all statements. To me, it seems like I love how you said something about not saying that it's like a competence issue, because what they're doing seems intentional.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they know exactly what they're doing for a
Very
certain
confident.
purpose.
Some,
And
yeah.
And it kind of gives them an excuse if you say, oh, maybe they just don't know. Man, you know what I mean?
Well, it's like a different analogy, but when Trump, as a candidate, went on camera and played dumb about knowing who David Duke of the KKK was. Well, two things. Either he's a fucking idiot and should not be eligible for president, or he's just lying. Both are bad. You don't want an idiot and you don't want a racist. He's both. So, yeah, incompetence or intentional, they're both bad. Intentional would be worse. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what I think is intentional. And I think you look at everything they're doing to try to break people down. Like that breaks you down. Like you said, I can't fight if I don't have a home. If I'm stressed out about home, I'm not going to go out and try to fight to make sure that the governor is held responsible. So I got to make sure I have that so I can still fight. It seems like they're trying to break people down to their last where they just give up, so they can push them out and do what they want to do with the city.
Right. Well, I don't know if I'm blowing up your spot, but you've chosen to leave, correct? Or is that not public yet?
It's not public.
All right. Well, I did blow up your spot.
That's okay.
Yeah. But my last thing is this. You're from Flint. So I'm just going to say it. There are some national figures from Flint that aren't really speaking out. This is me saying it, but like, where's Michael Moore been? I haven't heard anything from him aside from him going on TV and huffing and puffing about Russia. So like, are there people, is anybody, whether it's Moore or anybody else, advocating for Flint other than the Young Turks and some other fine folks?
Not that I'm aware of. And like I like to say is I believe Michael Moore got pneumonia from the water the last time he was here. Not that excuses him, but I mean that's enough to kind of put anybody off, like fighting. When you're going to get a rash, you're exposed to lead. I would like to give a shout out to Janelle Monáe, Ryan Kugler, who did come in. I really don't think that they know what's going on. They did the Justice for Flint event, and I think that they would be horrified to have this followed up, because I know that they do care as individuals, and so I'd like to give a shout out, come back, bring more of your celebrity and national attention back to this, because it's worse now. So I think it's just a matter of reaching the right people. Thank God for you guys. I mean, you are the single entity that has come back consistently. You've done what you said you're going to do, and I don't know what we would have done without you, to be honest.
Thanks. And do you feel, based on what we saw in North Dakota, obviously there are a lot of activated and concerned and passionate water protectors, environmental activists, indigenous folk. Obviously, it looks temporarily that battle was lost, even though there's still legal cases going on and it's already leaked, which we knew was going to happen. But frankly, there are people looking for causes, and now the weather is nicer. There are camps popping up all over the country. Would you like to see more people, come down to Flint, whether it's a camp, whether it's activist groups, whatever it is?
Absolutely. I think I think Flint should be ground zero. I think we need to converge. I think we all need to come together. There is a squatters camp, Camp Promise. I think we need to do another Occupy movement. I mean, I know you're saying that you can't call for that. Well, I'm calling for it. Come down to Flint. Sit in Kersley Park, live in Kersley Park.
No, I've passed go. I'm calling for it. Okay. I'm calling for it. People need to come down here. Because you know what? Honestly, I try not to get involved with, like, openly advocating for, like, camps or things like that, because, like, there's a fine line as a journalist. But, like, facts are facts. And the facts of the case here are very, very clear. So I think Amy Goodman puts it best. Like, you can't have a democracy without an informed populace. We don't have an informed populace for a lot of reasons. That's too long to get into right now. But people need to get down here, because you know what? Honestly, for example, I said to my brother, John, who my nephew's too, I said, don't let him drink tap water. like in New York City or this and that. Because I'm not paranoid, but I don't think the water's totally 100% safe anywhere in this country. So that's why you should, the world. So that's why you should come down here, because we could have abstract discussions and debates about journalism and neoliberalism and all this. You can't have them if we're all sick or worse. Can't do anything without water. Like Mini Wachoni, it's not some corny little thing. It's fact. I mean, try going without water for 5-6 days. See how you feel. So I think, and I also think it's more than just the water, but Flint is kind of ground zero for the water and the attack on the middle class that's happened basically for the last 40 years. De-investment. And it's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that General Motors, a couple months after they switched the water source, General Motors complained that our car parts are being destroyed from the Flint water, and they were allowed to switch back. So a giant corporation was given deference and first dibs. So that's like corporate welfare on steroids. That's corporate welfare like on a level that's frankly homicidal, because you're giving a corporation, the opportunity to get off this water, but you say to your citizens, we'll wait and see. Or as Obama says, we'll play it out. Let it play out. So there's a lot of things that, whether you're progressive, whether even conservative. I mean, I meet a lot of conservative people that
Still drink water.
right. And like my father calls me off. What are you doing about what's going on with East Chicago and Flint? What are you doing? Like, you'd be surprised. Even people that are kind of backwards on a lot of issues, they get it right on this. So thank you, as always, for taking the time, and I'll stay on it. So
Thank you very much. Thank you.